Dasami Bookworm podcast, and yet again, one of my favorite interviews, which it's not actually going to be an interview today, because we will be having Judith reading Chapter 2 from the Magic Lantern. Welcome, Judith.
Hi, Michelle. Good to see you again, darling.
I have to say, I have had quite a number of people just chomping at the bit to hear Chapter 2. Oh. We can't wait to get it out. As everyone knows, it will be going out on the 2nd of December, each month following on the proper date. So,
this one goes out on the 7th of December, first Thursday of the month.
Yes, absolutely. First Thursday of the month.
No, first Thursday of the month.
Oh.
I know. Michelle thought it was going out on the 2nd last month as well. I know. She forgets, bless her.
This is true. Without my team to keep me straight, I've got no... They all do that. So, all right, this will be going out on Thursday, the 7th of December, because it's the first Thursday of every month that it's going out. Excellent. So, without further ado...
Yeah, before you freeze and turn into a popsicle, because we are in the Panopticon and it is a bit chilly in here, isn't it?
I will say, but it lends to the atmosphere of the story because you do have the magic lantern, don't you?
I do. It is based on the magic lantern in this very building, and of course it is set partly in this auditorium.
All right, so that's just going to engage more listeners and have people want to visit for lots of wonderful, cool activities and events that do occur here. Anyway, without further ado, Judith Bowers reading Chapter 2 of The Magic Lantern.
And this chapter is called A Strange Boy Appears as If by Magic. Jamie Murray, newsboy, messenger and scourge of all truancy officers, was running late. The music hall show had already begun, but he had been held up in Noah's Ark, the Panopticon's basement zoo, where, whilst looking for his brother Tam, who also seemed to be running late, he had become the latest victim of the Panopticon's phantom pickpocket. The pickpocket had for several weeks avoided capture, and dozens of visitors had lost their wallets, watches and all manner of other objects. Jamie and his gang had been trying to catch the thief. He hadn't expected to be the next target, and a whole penny bag of sweets stolen at that. It was the most heinous crime. He had bought the sweets just before coming in, so he could only have lost them either when he was making his way through the queue to Noah's Ark or in the zoo itself. For half an hour he scoured the basement looking for suspicious characters, but all he could see were giggling girls, babbling boys and courting couples, gawping and gasping at the exhibits, and now he was late for the music hall show. He gave up his hunt, conceding to the fact that he would never see his precious sweets again, and despondently climbed the 3 flights of stairs that led to the balcony, half-heartedly hailing Flora the usherette on his way past. He battered his way through the balcony doors and pushed through the jostle of men who crammed the back of the balcony, smoking and laughing with over-rouged ladies in large feathered hats. He squeezed past the seated rows of courting couples and gallus gangs of other boys, then finally made his way down the 6 wooden steps to join his friends at the very front, which slightly overhung the stage. This was a favourite spot coveted by all the regular boys at the Panopticon. From here they had a bird's-eye view of the stage that allowed them to see the trick behind most magicians' illusions and look down the tops of the dancing girls. But, best of all, they could wee over the edge onto any act on the stage below that didn't meet with their approval. Jamie and his gang were the current undefeated rulers of this prized corner, the subordinates consigned to less advantageous viewpoints from which they resorted to throwing horse manure instead. The act on stage just now, though, was a troop of dancing girls and therefore safe from any kind of deluge. After the dancing girls had whirled and cartwheeled off the stage, a screen came down and an advert for next week's shows appeared. Jamie glanced down to the stalls beneath and along to the back where he could see his brother, Tam, standing next to the magic lantern on a platform which elevated him enough for his head to be above the rest of the crowd. The noise of the rowdy audience lowered to a steady hum of chatter for a few moments. Then Tam turned the projector off and a comedian, who was introduced as Jack McCormick, the funny chap, bounced onto the stage. Comedians were the favourite sport of the boys in the balcony. Rotten jokes were regarded as fair game, and it wasn't just the boys who would physically demonstrate their disapproval. Everyone joined in for a good pelting, throwing all sorts of rubbish, from whelk shells to solid steel shipyard rivets. Comics had to learn to move fast on the stage. Jack McCormick, the funny chap, however, lived up to his introduction and the hall rang with raucous laughter. His routine ended without a single projectile being thrown. As he stepped off the stage, the music hall chairman announced the next act. And now, for a late addition to the bill, we have a debut performance from our youngest turn tonight, the boy comic, Macmillan. No one stepped onto the stage for a moment, and the audience stared expectantly at the empty boards. Then a ragged lad was shoved on. He looked younger than Jamie, and as the boy comic stood trembling in the spotlight, it quickly became very apparent to all assembled that this timid young comic was likely to receive the first pelting of the night. In fact, the audience seemed to be limbering up for it as they began a slow, rhythmic stamping of impatience. "Go on!" someone shouted from the side of the stage. "Before they turn against you!" Thump, thump, thump went the feet of the audience on the wooden floor, and the boy just looked more terrified. Thump, 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 thump. The boy, sensing that the audience was about to turn nasty, suddenly puffed out his chest and, taking a deep breath, bellowed as loud as he could, "What did the stamp say to the envelope?" The thumping stopped and a cavernous silence replaced it as the audience waited for the punchline. "Stick with me and we'll go places." It wasn't worth waiting for, and a cacophony of boos and jeers rang around the music hall as the audience voiced its displeasure. Jamie in the balcony above decided that the time had come to use his position at the front to his best advantage. He unbuttoned his fly and made ready to urinate over the edge onto the young comedian below. But at that exact moment, a very strange thing happened. The magic lantern suddenly switched back on. The beam's sudden appearance made the boy comic vanish from the stage, and as one boy disappeared, another boy mysteriously appeared, as if projected there by the magic lantern. However, it was not a picture, it was an actual, real, live, flesh and blood boy who had fallen flat on his face in the barrage of muck and rubbish intended for Macmillan. Everyone stared at the boy, the over-rouged ladies in huge feathered hats, the cloth-capped, woodbine-smoking men, the courting couples and gallus gangs, the nursing mothers and toothless old folks. From stalls to balcony, all were stunned by the sudden appearance of an odd-looking boy with huge, hairy feet and peculiar costume, who struggled to stand up and for a moment looked around bewildered, as if he had no idea what he was doing on the stage, before being simultaneously hit by a metal screw square on the forehead and splashed by Jamie's wee. And that's the end of chapter 2.
And we have to wait another month for chapter 3 with bated breath and much excitement. So that's what we have today. I wish to thank Judith for the lovely story.
And I love to thank Jasami and the lovely Michelle for helping me promote it. And thank you for listening, listeners.
Absolutely. So this is Michelle at Jasami Bookworm Podcast, wishing you all a sunny day.